host an open house like a pro. So if you're new to the world of real estate or anything like that, and you wanna make the most of an opportunity hosting an open house, it's so important that you go about it the right way to maximize the amount of traffic you actually get and ultimately generate the most amount of leads possible in the process. And so in this video, I'm gonna share some very practical things you need to know about how to do that. And you're gonna come off of it knowing very clearly what you need to do to prepare for that next open house and make the most of that opportunity. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Tyler Roicki. I help people build income and wealth in real estate, and I run an international real estate team at eXp Realty. If you get any value whatsoever out of this video, all I would ask is that you like, comment, and hit that subscribe button so that I can continue to share more tips and resources with you in the time ahead. And with that being said, let's dive into the video. And so the first aspect about hosting an open house is finding an open house. And so I'm gonna share with you first how to find one, because it's not always clear if you've never done one before. So do this at the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday at the latest. Search your MLS for new listings by the brokerage you are affiliated with. And ideally, you're gonna find a few new listings from the past few days. So if you call 4 to 6, you should find at least 1 or 2 listing agents who are open to having you host the open house. So just introduce yourself, let them know you're part of the same brokerage. Say you saw their listing and wanted to know if they would be open to having you host an open house this upcoming weekend. And they'll either tell you yes or no. Maybe they have one planned already. Maybe their seller doesn't want to do one. But like I said, if you ask 4 to 6 listing agents, you will likely get 1 or 2 that say yes. And let me actually just add this up front here. If you're concerned about your safety while hosting an open house, partner up with someone. So another realtor can be someone you partner with, or better yet, a lender who can help you promote the open house and go to work on it. So you can tag team work together and potentially both work the same business together, because if it's a buyer, they're probably gonna need a loan. And so there's a spot for that lender to help you with. But partner up with somebody, safety first, of course. But that brings me to the next thing. Once you've found an open house, you're gonna wanna make sure that you promote it. So here's what you would do prior. First and foremost, ask the listing agent to add the open house date and time to the MLS. That's the way that it's going to get sent out to the websites that the property is listed on. That way buyers who are scrolling and browsing, especially when they pull up an open house list, they're gonna see that house in the days it's coming up. So you want that done early in the week. That way as people are searching throughout the week, they can see there's an open house coming up this weekend, and some people will plan on attending based on that, especially if it's a newer listing. So make sure the listing agent adds it. It doesn't really take them any time. They just gotta go to the MLS and add the open house details. And then beyond that, you should go to work on this a little bit, at least if you want to maximize your opportunity to get eyes, not just on the house, but on you as an agent that's hosting it. I would say there's 4 things you could potentially do. One is social media. Put it out online to your warm market, the people you're connected with on the platform that you use the most and really that you have the most contacts on. So make sure that you're making at least 2 or 3 posts coming up prior to the open house on the feed, on your stories. You can do different forms of that. You can do a fixed post, you can do a little video preview, you can say something about it, and just make mention, invite people out to it, but also just make mention of, hey, if you know anyone looking, like, think about this, everyone who's connected with you, the opportunity isn't to get their business, it's who they know, who you could potentially get connected with as a result. So think in that idea, it's like, hey, who do you know who's moving right now? And you're not really asking them that directly, but tell them to send it, to share it, to get them in touch with you, because you might have something of value that you bring to the table as far as an offer. Like, do you have any buyer incentives that you know of? Is the lender doing any incentives? Maybe you can make mention of that and say, hey, put me in touch with anyone you know who's in the market right now. I'd love to get them info on this and see what other houses are coming available. But that's for your social media. Second thing is you can door knock the neighborhood. So at least, if not not the whole neighborhood, at least the street or two over, or at least a few houses left to right, whatever have you, because the best possible thing you can do is get face-to-face with other homeowners in the neighborhood and personally invite them out to the open house. And that's your opportunity to start a dialogue with them, because if you have that opportunity to say something about the open house and they're still talking to you at that point, ask them how they like living in the neighborhood. Get a sense and feel for, you know, how things are going there. And occasionally you might find an opportunity to potentially help another homeowner that way. It's all about starting a conversation, and that's the best possible way you can start a conversation is face-to-face with fellow homeowners in the neighborhood. And the third thing is that you can do to promote it is circle prospecting. So this is where you're reaching out to a cold audience, which also would be homeowners in the neighborhood. So sometimes people will do door knocking or cold prospecting, sometimes both. But if it's circling around the neighborhood, calling other homeowners there, it's the same thing. You can invite them to the open house, start a dialogue, and ideally increase the traffic. But the fourth thing you can do is advertising. And this is another way to reach a cold audience. Some of them might be in the neighborhood, but also in the broader market area. I would say this is the least effective of the four things you can do, because you're really reaching out to a cold audience. They may or may not be in the market. They may or may not be homeowners, although, you know, you can dial that in as best as you possibly can with the criteria. But you'll go further with the first three if you really do the most. And then fourth, if you wanted to do something additional, that's something additional you can do with a little bit of ad spend to reach some more people. And also with the promotion, you want to make sure that you get the proper signage in place. And so ideally 2 to 3 days prior to the open house, place a handful of signs off of the main entrance or roadway going into the neighborhood, as well as one in front of the house, detailing the day and time of the open house. So 2 to 3 days prior, just get some signage up, and that way anyone who frequently drives through the neighborhood sees that and realizes there's going to be an open house hosted this weekend. And then 1 day prior, put signs everywhere. Some people wait to the morning of. I think it's good to not be dripping in sweat coming up to the open house. So do this the day prior and just put signs everywhere. Go crazy, make it impossible to miss it. There is no rule book on this. I mean, there might be some sign rules or ordinances where you're at, so definitely make sure you understand what those are if applicable. But beyond that, like, you know, there is no rule to how many signs you could or should put out. So go crazy with it. Go over the top with it. Make it impossible for somebody to miss it. And then that brings us to actually hosting the open house. And, you know, all the promotion stuff is important, because if you don't promote it correctly or to the fullest extent, you're just not going to have the kind of traffic you could possibly have. So the day you host it, show up early. Don't be scattered last minute, putting up signs, dripping in sweat. Like I said, no, put your game face on, come ready to have conversations and make contacts. And that's what it's all about. See, most agents have a sign-in sheet and flyers prepared. Yeah, that's an okay thing to do, but here's my recommendation. Don't be most agents. If you're gonna go through the trouble of setting all this up in the first place, have something of value to give people who are coming through in exchange for their phone number. In the words of Alex Hermosi, make an offer so good that they'd feel stupid saying no to it. So think about, what can you offer them? Because I'm telling you, it's not a flyer. I mean, a flyer, you could probably get their phone number if you have a digital flyer. So for example, if you wanted to get people's phone number in exchange for that digital flyer, instead of just asking if they'd like it, here's what you'll want to do. Have it ready to go, pulled up on your phone, and also add a market report to it, a neighborhood market report, because that way it's going to be applicable not to just a potential buyer coming in who's new to the neighborhood, but also if you have any of the neighbors come in, because that way there's going to be some information on there for them as well. So neighborhood market report, something that shows all the homes available as well as the recent sales activity. Have it ready, pulled up on your phone as a PDF to where you could actually send it to people. And as you're meeting guests who are walking in the home, ask them if they'd like to have information on the latest sales activity in the neighborhood. And if they say yes, then respond to them with confidence and certainty and say, great, as you're pulling out your phone, and then say, I'll send it to you right now. What's your phone number, right? So if you follow what I'm saying, you're gonna do this all in one fell swoop. Like, hey, yeah, great, I'll send it to you right now. What's your phone number? Boom, you're gonna text it to them. But that's an example, and honestly, I would tell you that's a pretty weak offer. I'd say it's a lot better than not having anything. It's better than having just a flyer you're handing people and not really getting anything in return, but you can do better than that. So think of like, what would really be an offer that would be so good that people would just feel stupid saying no, especially someone if they're actually in the market for a home right now, or even if they're a neighbor coming through that might have some kind of thought that they're going to be thinking about making a move sometime in the future. What's something that you can really bring to the table and have to give them in exchange for their basic contact information, or otherwise, hey, something you could send them a text with or what have you. So the key with all that is figure out what your compelling offer is gonna be. Have one or two to bring to the table. That way you can bring it up in conversation and get more people's contact info, but also provide them a higher level of value up front, which is going to help them to be more receptive towards staying in touch with you in the time ahead and potentially even working with you in the future if there's someone you might have that opportunity with. And that leads us to the fourth thing, which is follow up with more value. So see where they're at in the process as you're making contact. You're looking to filter out the people who they're not serious, they're not in the market, maybe they're already working with an agent, but you're filtering through all those to figure out who it is that you want to keep an open line of communication with based on their timeline and motivation to potentially make a move. And so follow up with the people who visited, see where they're at in the process. If they have a timeline, a motivation, establish a day and time to sit down and meet with them. So that's what you're looking for. Unless someone has a timeline and a motivation in which they're thinking about making a move on a certain timeline for a certain reason, until you have that information, you don't really have what you need to sit down and set an appointment with them. Because, you know, if we're not clear on those two things, who knows if they'll be in the market or when. So you don't want to spend your valuable time meeting with people where that's not the case. But when you have those two pieces of information, the next step is to establish a time where you can meet with them to help them get the next steps in motion, or at least review their options and see how you can best help them navigate these next steps forward. And so follow-up is very important, because as you're hosting open houses, that should be the goal, is to have as many people as possible in the pipeline that you're following up with until it comes time that you can meet with them to discuss the next steps face-to-face in person. That's how you want to be meeting with people. But to discuss the next steps of the home purchasing or sales process, depending on what's happening next. And so there you have it. That's how you find and host an open house like a pro. And at this point, here's what I tell you. If there's anything I can potentially do to help you now or in the future, if you have any questions about hosting open houses, or if you feel there's any additional resources that you may need that weren't covered in this video, I welcome you to go ahead and reach out. Send me an email. You'll find that information in the description below, along with some other helpful resources for you. And beyond that, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, because I will continue to share more tips and more resources for you right here on this channel to help you sell more real estate, build your income, build wealth in the process, and ultimately a better life, because that's what I love helping people do. So make sure you're subscribed. And on that note, thank you so much for watching the video. And until next time, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.